Welcome to Speak English for You.
Hello, and welcome back to Speak English for You. I'm your host.
And I'm thrilled to be here for today's discussion.
I am so glad you're joining us today because we are doing a really special deep dive. And I want this to feel almost like a big, comforting hug for anyone listening.
I love that. We definitely need it for this topic.
We really do. So think about this for a second. Your brain can process a visual image in roughly 13 milliseconds, which basically means it takes exactly 13 milliseconds for a complete stranger on the internet to entirely ruin your morning.
Yeah, it really is that fast.
It's crazy. You could be perfectly happy just like sipping your coffee, and in the literal blink of an eye, your life suddenly feels really small and inadequate.
Right, and it's such a heavy feeling.
Exactly. So today we are taking a deep dive into an excerpt from episode 8 of our program, Speak English for You, and we're going to unpack the psychology behind why we constantly compare ourselves to others.
It's a huge topic. We're looking at how modern life kind of, weaponizes this natural instinct, and more importantly, the specific shifts we can make to reclaim our peace.
Yes, that is the mission for today. I want you, the listener, to walk away with a real toolkit to dismantle that heavy feeling of being less than.
Because it is a dynamic we literally all experience, even if it feels, incredibly isolating in the moment.
It really does. So let's start with the physical reaction itself. The source text describes something so perfectly relatable. It talks about like walking down the street or scrolling on your phone and seeing someone who is, I don't know, taller, prettier, or maybe they just look more successful.
And then bam.
Bam! Instantly, there is this small, heavy feeling in your chest. You aren't actually happy for them. You just feel a sudden drop in your own value. What is actually happening in our bodies right then?
Well, that heavy feeling in your chest is a literal physiological stress response.
Yeah.
Your brain is, it's releasing a mild hit of cortisol.
Oh, wow. So it's an actual chemical stress reaction.
Exactly. And to understand why, we really have to look at evolutionary biology. I mean, humans are hypersocial tribal creatures, right?
Right, of course.
For the vast majority of human history, surviving meant staying in the good graces of a tribe of maybe like 150 people.
Okay, so a pretty small group.
Very small.
Yeah.
And in that environment, you constantly needed to monitor your social standing. If someone else suddenly acquired more resources or, became physically stronger, it represented a very real threat.
A threat to your own survival, basically.
Yeah, a threat to your access to food, shelter, or mates.
Yeah.
So your brain sounds an alarm bell. That cortisol spike is your body literally preparing for a potential social demotion.
Wow. So we were essentially running this like ancient tribal software, and it's just firing off alarm bells whenever we see someone doing better than us.
That's precisely it.
But I mean, we don't live in tribes of 150 people anymore. The person with the amazing outfit on the street doesn't even know we exist.
No, they don't.
And they certainly aren't a threat to our actual survival,
Right, but that is the core of the mismatch theory in evolutionary psychology. Our threat detection system, specifically the amygdala, it evolved millions of years before cameras or cities or, the internet.
It hasn't had time to update the software.
Exactly. It cannot compute the concept of a total stranger who has zero bearing on your actual life. It just sees a higher status individual and triggers that ancient reflex.
So we basically subconsciously turn innocent people into a measuring stick.
Yes, and we immediately rank ourselves against them.
Which is so unfair to ourselves. And if passing a stranger on the street triggers that, I mean, social media is basically an industrial-scale manufacturing plant for those measuring sticks.
Oh, absolutely. It's on a completely different level.
The excerpt gives this scenario that is almost too relatable. You wake up, you're lying in bed, your hair is messy, but you're feeling perfectly fine.
Just a normal morning.
Just a normal morning. You reach for your phone, and within, 5 seconds, you see a friend bought a house, your cousin got married, and some random stranger is drinking out of a coconut on a pristine beach in Thailand.
And the joy is just instantly sucked out of your morning.
Totally gone. Why does it hit so hard when it's just pictures on a screen?
Because your brain is processing those images as immediate physical reality. It doesn't naturally differentiate between a glowing digital screen and your physical surroundings.
Wait, really? It thinks it's happening right there.
Yeah, it registers that the rest of your tribe is acquiring massive amounts of property and thriving in tropical environments while you are, lying immobilized in bed.
Oh my goodness, no wonder the threat response goes into overdrive.
Exactly. It's pure panic on a biological level.
I sort of think of it like an algorithm that is being fed corrupted training data. Like if a computer model is only fed data showing that the average temperature is 100 degrees, it's going to assume a 70-degree day is freezing.
There is a brilliant way to conceptualize it.
Right. Because our brains are gathering data on what a normal life looks like based on this infinite feed of peak human experiences. No wonder our baseline for contentment becomes incredibly skewed.
Yeah, the data we are feeding our brains is profoundly compromised. And the material from Speak English for You touches on this with a really powerful central premise.
Oh, about the inside versus the outside.
Yes, the idea that comparison is a fundamental lie because you are comparing your inside to someone else's outside.
It's just a total asymmetry of information.
Precisely. You intimately know your own fears, your failures, your bad days, but you're weighing all of that against another person's smiles and wins and their highlight reel.
I love how the text frames that. We've all heard the cliche about the highlight reel, but the source compares it to watching a full, messy movie versus a polished 30-second trailer.
It's a great analogy.
It really is. But what I find so fascinating and a little frustrating isn't just the metaphor itself, it's this cognitive blind spot we develop.
What do you mean?
Well, I know I curate my own life online, right? I know I don't post pictures of my burnt toast or my messy bedroom, yet when I look at someone else's vacation photos, I somehow completely forget that they are doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, that cognitive blind spot is the dangerous part.
Yeah.
Presenting our best selves to the world is natural. It's just a form of social grooming.
Which is fine, in theory.
Right. The issue arises when we become passive consumers of those presentations. When you watch that 30-second trailer of someone else's life, your brain emotionally processes it as their entire 24/7 reality.
Even though logically we know it's not.
Exactly. You intimately know your own blown lines, your bad lighting, your continuity errors, the full movie of your life.
Yeah.
But you weigh all of your complex, difficult reality against a complete fiction.
Which raises such an interesting point about our own, I guess, complicity in this. We are willingly punishing ourselves for coming up short against a mirage.
Really are.
But if we understand logically that the data is asymmetric and the trailer isn't real, why does it still hurt so much? Why can't I just outthink the cortisol spike?
That's a great question. It's because the emotional processing center of the brain reacts much, much faster than the logical, analytical prefrontal cortex.
So the feelings just outrun the logic.
Basically, yeah. By the time your logic steps in to remind you that the photo is heavily filtered, the cortisol is already in your bloodstream. You are already feeling the heaviness.
That makes so much sense. It's like trying to put on a seatbelt after the crash already happened.
Exactly. And furthermore, we don't just use flawed data to assess others. We use the wrong metrics entirely to assess ourselves.
Oh, this brings us perfectly to the fish and the monkey analogy from the excerpt.
Yes, the fish trying to climb a tree.
Right. So we know the trope. A fish fails at climbing, looks at a monkey swinging from the branches, and feels entirely useless.
Because it's judging itself by the monkey's standards.
Exactly. We all understand that a fish is meant to swim and a monkey is meant to climb, and neither is inherently better. But, you know, the deeper issue here, in my view, isn't just that we forget we are fish.
What do you think it is?
It's that modern society essentially demands that everyone climb the tree.
Oh, that's a really good point. Society certainly centralizes specific metrics for success.
Yeah, like accumulate wealth, secure a certain job title, hit these specific milestones by age 30.
Right, it sets up tree climbing as the only valid game in town.
Exactly. And if your natural strengths and your unique trajectory lie entirely outside those parameters, like if you are gracefully navigating the currents of the water while everyone else is screaming and scrambling up the canopy, you are going to feel a profound sense of failure.
Even though you are functioning perfectly well within your own ecosystem.
Exactly. It's like being placed in a massive multiplayer game where you think you are playing a racing simulator, but society is judging you based on how many points you're scoring in a basketball game.
That is a very stressful game to play.
Right. You are looking at the leaderboard, seeing you have 0 points, and feeling like a total failure, completely ignoring the fact that you are driving a car.
Yet, the text addresses you, the listener, directly on this exact point.
Yeah.
It stresses that you are on your own path, which looks nothing like anyone else's.
You aren't behind or ahead because you aren't even on the same track.
And that realization is so vital because comparison is an infinitely unwinnable game.
The goalposts are always moving.
Constantly. They are constantly receding. If you define your value relative to others, there will literally always be someone wealthier, younger, more talented, or just simply luckier.
You can climb that ladder forever, and there will always be another rung above you.
Precisely.
But, okay, let me challenge the mechanics of this just a little bit, because some people might argue that looking down the ladder makes them feel better.
Ah, the gratitude comparison.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We constantly hear the advice to practice gratitude by looking at those who have less. And the excerpt even notes that there is always someone struggling more who wishes they had your life.
Right.
Does looking down the ladder actually provide a, biological counterbalance? Or is it just the same toxic mechanism in reverse?
It is the exact same mechanism.
Really?
Yeah, finding relief because someone else is suffering is essentially Schadenfreude dressed up as gratitude.
Oh, wow. I've never thought of it like that, but you're so right.
It reinforces the core premise that your worth is tied to a hierarchical ranking. If your contentment relies on being higher up the ladder than someone else, your peace of mind is incredibly fragile.
Because the moment someone passes you, that peace shatters.
Exactly. True contentment cannot be tethered to external rankings at all, up or down.
Which brings us to the most pivotal question of this whole deep dive.
How do we fix it?
Yes. If our brains are biologically wired to scan the hierarchy, and the modern world is constantly flooding our amygdala with corrupted data of, monkeys climbing trees in Thailand, how do we actually short-circuit this?
Well, the source material acknowledges a hard truth first. You cannot stop the autonomic reflex of noticing.
Right, you are going to see the shiny car or the perfect vacation. You can't just close your eyes forever.
Exactly. You cannot stop the noticing, but you have significant agency over the narrative you construct immediately afterwards.
It's the story we tell ourselves.
Yes. The real psychological intervention happens in that tiny space between the stimulus and your extended response.
And the excerpt offers a really specific tactical intervention for that space.
It does. A very simple phrase.
Right. When the heavy feeling hits your chest, you pause and you simply say, good for them.
Good for them.
You actively cut off the internal monologue that asks, why not me? Or I should be there too. You just say, good for them, and you put a firm period at the end of the sentence.
It's very definitive.
It is, but I want to push back on this a little, because in the moment when I'm feeling that sharp sting of jealousy, saying good for them feels, I don't know, a little forced,
Sure.
like maybe a bit of toxic positivity. How do we make that actually work, rather than just lying to ourselves through gritted teeth?
That is a really crucial distinction to make. The goal here is not to conjure a feeling of genuine, ecstatic joy for a stranger on the internet.
Okay, phew, because that's impossible.
Yeah, that would be totally artificial and, as you said, bordering on toxic positivity. The phrase, good for them, is not an emotional declaration. It is a cognitive circuit breaker.
Oh, a circuit breaker. I really like that. So it's literally severing a connection.
Exactly. Think about it. When you see a friend buy a house, your unmanaged brain immediately connects their achievement to your perceived failure.
Right. Like they bought a house, therefore I am falling behind.
Yes, but by consciously saying good for them, you are actively decoupling their external reality from your internal self-worth.
You're just unlinking them.
Exactly. You are acknowledging their trailer, their highlight reel, without making it mean anything negative about your own movie. You are putting a firm wall between their data set and your value.
Oh, that is so empowering. It neutralizes the threat response. You acknowledge the stimulus, but you absolutely refuse to let your amygdala process it as a social demotion.
Right.
There is a profound relief in just dropping the rope like that.
Just letting it go.
Yeah. And once you've broken that negative loop, the material suggests a redirection. You shift the lens back to the only data set that is actually real and relevant, which is your own life.
Focusing on your own small wins.
Yes. You woke up, you are trying, you are making progress, learning English, going to work, whatever it is.
Because that is the only environment where your agency actually exists. Shifting your focus inward allows you to recalibrate your metrics for success based on your actual capabilities and resources, rather than, an aggregated fictional standard set by the internet.
And so the text leaves us with a concluding metric. It says, stay in your own lane and only compare yourself to who you were yesterday.
It's all about measuring progress against your own baseline.
Rather than a stranger's highlight reel.
It is the ultimate shift from external comparison to internal evolution. When you stay in your own lane, you are finally playing a game where the rules actually apply to you and the data is accurate.
This has been such a wonderful discussion. Let's pull all these threads together for everyone listening.
Sounds good.
We've explored the sheer speed at which our ancient biology misinterprets modern digital life, flooding our systems with stress hormones just because we perceive a curated photo as a threat to our social standing.
And we analyze the fundamental lie. of comparing our unedited, chaotic reality to someone else's tightly edited 30-second trailer.
We also completely dismantled the absurdity of the metrics we use, recognizing that judging a fish by its ability to climb a tree only guarantees a lifetime of feeling inadequate. Be gentle with yourselves, everyone.
And most importantly, we mapped out the cognitive circuit breaker.
Yes, the toolkit. We can't stop our brains from noticing the shiny things, but we can completely control the story we tell ourselves in the aftermath.
By using the phrase good for them, we decouple someone else's success from our own self-worth. We separate the autonomic reflex of noticing from the conscious act of storytelling.
So for everyone navigating this, here is a practical application, a little homework to take into your week.
I love a good takeaway.
The next time you are scrolling through your feed or walking down the street and you feel that sudden, small heaviness in your chest, I want you to practice the pause.
Catch the feeling before it spirals.
Exactly. Take a breath and consciously say, good for them. Sever the link, and then physically put the device down or look away and identify one small piece of progress in your own life to be proud of.
It requires conscious repetition, but redirecting that neural pathway is how you slowly insulate your peace of mind from all that external noise.
It is an active daily practice. But before we wrap up this deep dive, there is one final layer to this I'd love for you, the listener, to mull over on your own.
Oh, a provocative thought to end on.
Always. So we discussed the source's advice to shift your metric entirely, to only compare yourself to who you were yesterday. And it is undeniably a healthier framework than comparing yourself to a stranger on the internet.
Definitely.
But let's take that logic just one step further. Think about who you were yesterday, or last year, or a decade ago. That past version of you was operating in a totally different context.
That's true.
They had different resources, different energy levels, different ignorance, and different challenges. So, is it possible that even comparing ourselves to who we were yesterday is just another rigged game?
Oh, wow. That's deep.
Right. If we are constantly evolving in a changing environment, how do we strive for meaningful growth without turning our own past into a competitor we constantly have to defeat?
That is an incredible question to ponder.
Something to think about until next time. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in to this deep dive. Don't forget to practice your homework, and please remember to subscribe to our channel for more deep dives. Until then, keep speaking English for you.